Hey there, guys, what is going on? And welcome back to the Impact Zone podcast. We are here to talk more TNA wrestling shenanigans. And we are now going to be reviewing the 4th of April show and previewing the April 11th show. So this one, I had a lot of hype going into this one with Shelley and Nemeth, and they did a pretty good job of hyping up this match throughout the show. We'll talk more about it throughout this thing. The opening package was all about Nemeth versus Shelley, the generational clash. This package was pretty good. As I said, throughout the show, they kept mentioning it and kept hyping it up with some backstage interviews and whatnot with some of the other TNA talent. The opening match was Mustafa Ali versus Rhino in an old school rules match. I believe I said that Mustafa Ali would win this. I didn't think it made any sense for Rhino to win this title or to even win this match, not even for the title. What am I saying? I don't know what I'm talking about sometimes, but I do know what I'm talking about sometimes, but still. Whatever. Anyway, but still, it was a fine match. I think, it's tough, I think, to have, I watched a match with Rhino and RVD on TNA Explosion last week, or this last week's episode, and it's one of those things that you've got to have someone like Ali or someone more athletic and whatnot to take on somebody like Rhino, so that you can have that sort of other person carry a lot of the work. Rhino's going to, do his big power stuff and whatnot, and I still, love Rhino and respect everything he does and whatever else. But, he's really good at certain things, and you've got to, highlight those things in the right way so that he doesn't look like, a chump out there, I think. Especially nowadays, he's a lot older and whatnot, so he needs somebody else to really, carry the match. He can't really carry the match, but yeah, Mustafa Ali did beat Mr. Rhino with the highlight here, and Jake Something came out after the match to confront Ali, which I thought in a way was a bit odd in some ways, but I don't know, sure, you could have him confront him and be like, hey, I want that title, but the way they kind of did this, I don't know, it already felt like they'd had more of a story that they hadn't really told already on TV, so it felt like, this is a bit awkward. You're telling, where, Jake Something's getting his hands all over Mustafa Ali and all of this. It's like they haven't really done anything for him to warrant putting his hands on him. Yes, if he's pointing at the title and saying, "Oh, I'm coming for that. This is going to be mine. I'm going to see you at Rebellion. Whatever." That's cool. But again, when he's coming up and coming behind him and being like, throwing him into the ring and saying, "Oh, this, or whatever," and trying to take the title off of him, and then, all of this stuff, it just feels like that didn't make any sense to me. Like, it feels like they've been feuding for a lot longer if you're saying, or if you're doing that kind of thing. So that doesn't really suit the story that they've already told. There isn't really much of a story there, and if you were going to have some sort of story between them, for this to make sense, for why Jake Something did this, you had to have something backstage of Santino Marella interviewing, Jake Something, or saying something, or having Jake Something say, I saw what you said, or whatever, and things like that, and that's a bit BS or whatever, I don't know, even that feels like it's very slim sort of reasoning, but whatever. Is still going down, and Jake something delivered a devastating powerbomb to one of Ali's security guards. Here's a highlight of that. Gia Miller interviewed Hammerstone and said, "Hey, are you afraid of Josh Alexander?" And he said, "No, I'm not afraid of him, though he's been acting kind of like it, and picking his spots at the very least, rather than confronting Josh Alexander, despite having been given several chances to do so." But he said, "Hey, Josh, you're just running your mouth and whatnot. And, this match isn't going to happen until I say it's going to happen, and it's going to happen at Rebellion." And then Hammerstone proceeded to, take the cameraman and put him in a torture rack, and he put the Josh Alexander's headgear on him while he was in that torture rack. Or while he was getting him in that torture rack, so that he was saying, "Oh, this is Josh Alexander. Look how easily I beat him up," or whatnot. Sometimes how you get like this big man, little man sort of thing going is really like the thing that I think some people, especially when it's been done in WWE, they don't do it very well. But they, like, Hammerstone did this really well, to be saying, how he's bigger and whatnot, and he's more dominant or whatever, and this sort of thing. I think that the way that he got over his power and size, and the reasons for, that mattering, meant more in this promo and whatnot. I didn't go into it too deeply throughout that early parts of saying that, but in saying that, in review of it, yes, he actually did a pretty good job of trying to get himself over as a big man and a bigger man than Josh Alexander. Whereas, when you see it in a lot of other contexts, it's really hard to sort of get that, again, context right and be like, well, that doesn't mean shit, really, dude. Like, anyone can beat anyone on any given day. It doesn't matter about your size. But like, when you're trying to say, well, I'm trying to get the heat, or I'm trying to get, that fan investment or whatever, and that sort of thing, or that little bit of logic, or that little bit of doubt or whatever to build to this match, then that's where you've got it. Like, that's what he did here, which was really good. The Rascals had an open challenge. It was the FBI that answer the challenge. It's actually the new FBI with 2 new members. And they said these guys are, like, effectively said that these guys are going to be in TNA. Like, so I don't know whether they're actually going to be in TNA, or this is just like they're here this week and they might not be back next week. I don't know. I don't know. It seems a little odd that they said, that they're here now in TNA or whatever, but they, like, didn't say that they've signed with TNA or whatever. I don't know. They said that with, like, one of the, like, the female wrestlers that was wrestling with Tasha Steelz on Explosion. And I was like, huh? This girl's making her debut? Like, all jobbers, effectively? Like, why are you saying that, like, this is their debut? Or why are you saying it, like, oh, they've just come here, like, or whatever? Like, are they sticking around, or are they important for some reason? Like, if they're important for some reason, like, again, like I get back to that Explosion match, like, then the audience needs to kind of have more of a connection than, oh, this is just another jobber. Like, that doesn't work. So when you're talking about, like, this tag team, cool to see them, and I do hope that they stick around and can do some stuff in the division, because, again, the tag team division there does need a few more teams, I feel, and especially, like, babyface teams. even if they're on the lower runs, I don't really care. Like, as long as they're doing something and they've got a decent depth to their divisions, and they can, have more people having more matches on the card and whatnot. Even if they are effectively a jobber team, I don't know. Maybe they will. Maybe they won't. Maybe they'll win a match here or there. But again, like you talk about the Rascals needing a match win. So I guess that makes some sense and whatnot. So it's fine. Like this was their debut. Cool. I guess this wasn't their best debut. They probably should have debuted on like Explosion or something, or whatever. I don't know. And then won a match, and then had this match. But then again, it's like, well, then it's not a surprise. Whatever. I don't know. It's tough. So, but yeah, like when you've got that win and you've got those people going, oh, okay, well, we saw them last week and on Explosion or whatever. Oh, well, they won. They probably won't win, but hey, well, we still know a bit more about them, or whatever, that kind of thing. So yeah, that was that. So, but Myron Reed returned in this match to spray the cornerman out of the corner before a tag, so that the Rascals could pick up the win. So again, like I'm left like kind of hanging with that. Like, is Myron now in TNA permanently, or is this just he's there for this week, or what? Like, like there's no real context and no real like. Yes, tune in next week to find out more, but like, you should make it somewhat clear to being like, oh, well, he's going to be around for at least a couple of weeks or something, or whatever it is. So it makes it tough when you've got somebody coming in or somebody doing something, and it's like, oh, well, am I meant to be hyped that this person's here, or are they not going to be here next week? Like, like. So that makes it hard. But yeah, here's a highlight of the young goat in the house. But next bit was Jonathan Gresham having a sort of a very interesting group session, like almost an AA meeting, and talking about like lies, or this one was talking about lies and how, you've got how to tell the truth. You've got to tell lies. You've got to wear a mask, all this sort of stuff. If you want to be honest, you have to live a lie. It was pretty interesting. So like we haven't seen Gresham for a while. He's been injured. But yeah, like matches like these where you have a debuting team, like when they lose in a manner where, there's shenanigans, it does protect them a little bit. So I guess if they are sticking around or doing more stuff, again, I do wish they kind of like would give it a little bit of that, to being like, oh, well, they are sticking around, or maybe they're not. Like, at least then what to expect or whatever, rather than just being like, oh, this happened? Okay, well, like, did that matter? But anyway. Yeah, Gresham, this was pretty interesting. So, yeah, I don't really know what to think of this. Is this sort of a more babyface turn, or like, I don't know, it's telling a story, obviously. And again, I'm happy to see Gresham's coming back, because like he's been injured and he's been away, he hasn't been here for a while, and whatnot. So it's tough to sort of get back in that rhythm and get back in there once you've been injured and all this stuff. He's been out for like I don't know. He's been out for a while. He's been out since he faced Shelley in their one-on-one match, and Shelley was apparently somewhat injured in that match as well. But still, he could keep going apparently for the next few months, whatever it was. But still, it's just one of those things. Like when you're thinking about something, and this is like when you talk about like the Attitude Era too, like, and even in TNA, like I think the gray zone sort of thing. This falls into the gray zone. Like you start going, well, is this babyface or is this a heel still? Like, it doesn't really matter in some ways because the fans will be happy to see this dude back, like in some regards. So they'd be welcoming for him to come back, and they want to see him do stuff. So again, it's like, well, what are we going to do with this? Like, it seems like there's going to be at least a couple of parts to this before he returns, but at least we know where he's at and what's going on with the dude. But yeah, like, I can't wait to sort of see where this sort of goes, because, like, again, that's part of, like, like, okay, we have this idea, we have this, how do we reintroduce this guy? Oh, we could just, he could just have a match or whatever. Maybe he's not quite ready. Maybe that's why. But again, like, instead of, well, he's ready, or almost ready, but instead of just like throwing him in there for a random match for no reason and having no context behind it, the fans will be like, what are we meant to do? How are we meant to feel about this guy and where he's at right now? You're giving the fans some context, and you're giving them some new context to go, okay, well, we'll see how we feel about this. We'll see how this, again, develops, and we'll see how the fans react. So, interesting stuff there. GM Miller interviewed Speedball Mountain, and, Trent Seven, he said, I'm challenging you, Moose, TNA World Heavyweight Champion, next week. Okay. So, that will be next week. Next match was Frankie Kazarian versus Chris Bay. I don't really like this story that they're kind of telling, the dissension between the ABC. Like, I really don't. Like, I want to see both of these guys as single stars, definitely, 100%. But, like, still, I feel like they just don't have enough tag teams. Like until they have, like, more concrete tag teams, like, I honestly feel like they shouldn't do any of this stuff with them. They shouldn't be doing this stuff with them. It's an interesting, like, it's something to work with. But again, it's just one of those things that they shouldn't really be doing, in my opinion, just because they just don't have enough teams. So they need more teams, and they need, these guys to stick together, probably for another couple of months at least. I don't know how you can, like, split them apart without one of them turning heel. I know, like, they both could have good heel runs, but still, like, honestly, again, like, if you're looking at almost any of the divisions, like, right now, X Division, Mustafa Ali, he's a heel. So why are you going to make another heel wrestler? If, that heel wrestler's not going to be the champion, like, and you're not going to give the title to the babyface, like, that's not there unless, again, like, you could see where, like, that title is going to go off of Mr. Ali, and then it might go to the heel of this breakup in a few months if it happens. I don't know. But still, like, I don't know. I'd rather not see that. I'd rather just see them, like, do something else, or just, like, I don't know. I see these guys as very high potential main event guys. Like, I could see either of them winning the Digital Media Championship. That'd be kind of cool, and that'd be something for them, and I liked Crazy Steve. I've liked Crazy Steve, but, like, I don't feel like they're really doing a whole lot with his new, like, gimmick. Like, and they haven't really like tapped into it enough to really like explore what it's doing and why and you know, like enough stuff with it. It's not like he's on the digital media very much and like doing very much, or like seems to be that important of a champion, really. Like, you need to build these guys up, and like next week we're going to be talking about it with him and Laredo Kid. So we're gonna have to see more of that in the weeks to come. But again, it's tough to sort of build somebody, especially like that hasn't been there for a long time and that's basically never really won a match into anything. So I don't know, especially when you're just going to do it on TV. I don't know, tough. But anyway, yeah, I felt like Frankie Kazarian probably would win this one because he's got a big match coming up. And I felt like this was a bit dumb as well in some ways because, again, like, what are you doing with this tag team guy and putting him in a singles arena? Yes, you're trying to showcase that these guys can be singles guys and can be near the top with some of the biggest names in TNA and whatnot. I get that. But again, you know, when you're handing people losses, it's tough to hand them those losses. They need to win and lose, yes, as I sort of say, or lose in this case specifically, but you know, it's where is the line between like you are in there with somebody and you're actually getting the rub, because like, and this in this case I do think that Chris Bay got a fair bit of the rub because, you know, Kazarian won with a lot of a fair amount of shenanigans and whatnot involved near the end and whatnot. So you know, like, again, but that's what you, like I was saying, like someone was saying to me, what do you think about, you know, the Motor City Machine Guns going to AEW or WWE or whatever? And I was like, of the opinion that they're, like, even if they were booked really well, which I don't think that they would be just because of the landscape of AEW and WWE, it doesn't matter where they're going into an absolutely stacked roster. So it's going to be really hard for them to stand out amongst the crowd of, you know, all these other teams and all these other guys. If they're just there to be, you know, faces in the crowd and just be like guys that are there and collecting a paycheck and doing some good work every week, yeah, sure, they can do that, but I think that they shouldn't just be doing that. And at a certain point, you know, then what have you invested in? Like, you've got to have them win sometimes so that they look good, because otherwise, why did you bring them over just to look bad and to lose? Like, they need to win sometimes, and this is the same thing here. You need these young guys to start winning and looking good because, you know, they're the future and they're going to carry the company for the next few years, and you can't rely on these old guys forever. You need these old guys to help these new guys get a big name for themselves so that they can get over. And yes, they can't always just win in their first match, no, but still, like, and, you know, like, if there is reasonable cause or whatever in the match, shenanigans, whatever it is, and you're doing the right thing to help somebody get a good rub, make them look really good, then it does help. But again, that's like the veteran job, you know, like, in a sense, like, so, you know, like, they could do that over there in AEW or WWE or whatever. I don't really mind where they're going, if they're going, which, like, it does seem like they are going, but still, it's one of those things where, like, it's very tough to tell, like, what the line is of, like, nah, that's not right, or, you know, like, this wasn't not right, but I'm just saying this in this context of starting to say, there is a line between, like, you're burying your new talent and being over-reliant on your old talent, and you're not letting those new guys come up, which is what you need to do. You need those new guys to come up, because, again, if you keep, like, you know, bottlenecking yourself into thinking, oh, well, the only guys that are over or are going to make money are these old guys, well, they've only got a limited time on the clock. and you've sacrificed your new guys to these old guys, again to, to before, so that they can stay over. But then, like, the time period comes where, well, they just leave or whatever, they have to retire or whatever at a certain point, and then it's like, well, now we don't have any new stars or anyone to replace them because we spent too much time investing and focusing in on those older talents and no real time investing in these young talents. I still think that that's an ongoing theme and an ongoing thing here, for Bay and for Austin and whatnot, and they are climbing those ranks. So, and that's kind of what I want to see. I don't know, but still, it's tough to say where that line is. And again, I think I said that with, Motor City Machine Guns, like if they go over there into AEW and job is like, well, why did we bring them in? Just to job to everyone? They don't look good, like they've got to look good, but they can't make other people, especially the younger stars, look bad. If you're going to bring them in and their first match is a win, cool. But they've got to beat somebody that's not too high up or whatever, but not too low down, because it's like, well, if you set that pace of saying, well, we beat somebody way, way up there in the rankings, well, then obviously you're going to beat everyone else in the rankings. And again, if you beat somebody that's sort of in the middle, then sure, like, or maybe closer to the lower middle, then sure, like maybe like that isn't the best team for them to go against in their debut. But at least you kind of feel like they should win and they could elevate that other team. So I don't know. It's always really tough to like figure this stuff out and whatnot. Highlight here of Kazarian basically goading Ace Austin into getting ejected from ringside by taking the chain off of him. Kazarian dropped Bay with the fade to black after sending him into the ring and getting the win here. So yeah. Master Slamovich had a promo that was interrupted by Alicia, who said, hey, I need some tag team gold, and you need a partner, so, hey, let's partner up. Maybe. So, I don't know. I wouldn't mind maybe seeing that. I kind of want Lish to be a singles champion. I think she should be campaigning to be a singles champion more so. But if they're just going to go down this route of her being a tag team partner, I don't see that. I honestly don't. I think, like I said, I think she should try to beat Jordan. Even if she loses, I think, like, it might be better for her to, like, win. That's kind of cool. That would kind of be interesting. I don't think there's enough legitimacy there for her, but, like, she hasn't won very matches. She hasn't been in very matches of recent. But again, like, it's the way you're trying to treat her now. Like, you're gonna treat her like effectively just a mid-card tag team wrestler. Like, you shouldn't do that. You should be treating her like, no, she's gonna go and say to Jordan, hey, F you. Like, probably this didn't even need to be there, like, at all. Like, I don't know. But maybe they just like, well, we need a partner for Marsha and we don't have anyone else or whatever. So, we need you to be her partner. And if this is something that they just like drop in a few weeks or something, or it leads to, Alicia being like, I don't need you anyway, Marsha. I'm just going to go for the Knockouts title myself, whatnot. Then that's cool, that's fine. But again, you've got to build it in such a way to make it work and whatnot. Khan had a promo about the Monsters Ball match, which I believe is happening next week. We'll talk more about it as it goes on. Zaya Brookside came out for her match with Ash by Elegance. This one was good. This one was pretty darn spicy as well. Both fairly young talents that can, go in that ring and whatnot. This is a good back and forth sort of match. Ash dominated most of the match, which is, good. And I felt like, this probably wouldn't be the end of their feud. So I felt like, if Ash wins by shenanigans, that's probably fine. If you're going to build it up at some point. Like, again, if Ash just wins this feud, like at Rebellion or whatever it is, again, I feel like that's still fine. But again, like, this is, like, again, like, you start talking about, like, the same sort of thing. A lot of these matches, like tonight, were a lot of, like, generational matches, honestly. If you look through them, you look at, like, going back here, except for, like, the tag team match, Mustafa Ali versus Rhino, old versus new, again, and the new one there, which is, good there in that regard. Then you had FBI, which is a new team, but they lost. Sort of a new team anyway. Bay and Kazarian, new versus old one there, and it continued into the main event and whatnot, and throughout. So yeah, like, it's interesting and whatnot to sort of see this sort of stuff and see where it's going, and yeah, it was good to kind of see that Ash won via not the rarefied air, and win in a different way, because it's, like, by shenanigans, yeah, sure, okay, that's shenanigans, how it works. Having the concierge throw the bubbly, the champagne or whatever into Zaya's face, which is part of the established story, keeping it part of the story. Hey, maybe they'll have something to do with champagne in their upcoming match. We'll have to wait and see. Here's the highlight of the champagne going into Brookside's eyes. I don't even think it actually really got in her eyes. It just kind of got in her face, but she had to sell it like it went into her eyes. But all in all, like again, I seriously don't think their feud's over. I guess, as a sort of saying, I guess, because, like, it seems like a cheap win. Like, again, you could finish this with, like, Ash by Elegance having another cheap win, but, like, I don't know. Even if you put it on the pre-show, I feel like you could, like, have some sort of, like, finale to this feud just for now or whatever. I don't know. You got to give Ash something to do. So it's tough to sort of just end it in that regard, because then who else is she gonna work with? Like, going forward. Who's Zaya gonna work with going forward? Like, it makes it tough. Like, you could just, like, have them face jobbers again, but it's not very interesting for the audience or for anything or anyone for that. Like, if you're just doing it on Explosion or whatever, things like that, people probably, whatever. Or if it's some other match that, people are more interested in, again, it's probably all right if you're trying to treat it like it's a Goldberg or Asuka type thing, where you're actually giving this person a streak, you're giving them a lot of wins, like, you're investing that time and energy into them, etc. It showcases what you're trying to achieve with them. You're trying to post them up as being more than just, like, the average person. So again, why put them against the average person? You've got to put them up against other non-average people so that they can have somebody to really work with and really show that they are in the, top 1% or whatever, that type of thing. So in that rarefied air. So yeah, but I don't know. It's tough to think exactly what they're going to do there. But they still have time to do stuff with them. They could even have a tag team match if you want to really, like, I don't know who their tag team partners would be, but still, like, you could have something to continue the feud if you don't want to end it here. Anyway, Ace and Bay were having a bit of an argument backstage. Rich Swann and Dollar came in and interrupted them. I'm going to keep calling him Dollar because everyone knows him as Dollar. He's even calls himself Dollar sometimes here and there. But they basically said, hey, we'll have a match next week. So, yeah, they'll have a match. Gia Miller interviewed Steph DeLander, who had a bit of a promo about winning the Knockouts championship and her win in the 8-4-1. Yeah, I think, like, I like Steph, and I feel like this is kind of cool. I think they're having a contract signing next week, but like again, we'll get, like, I've already sort of talked a little bit about this. There's not a lot of build to it, so it's tough. It's tough when you've given somebody a couple of wins or a win, so, but that's not nearly enough to really like make it work. I don't know. I don't really know where it's all going from there. It must be like building other things. Like no one's really been built enough like for Jordan to really face her. So they really need like more outside talent coming in to fill the roster as well in a way, just to help. And they almost need a bunch of like, again, maybe Rosemary or Havoc or somebody like that, just to be like, get out of the tag team scene for a little while just to face her. It sucks because, again, that happens a lot, but still, you need like people to be facing off against the Juggernaut that are there weekly and whatnot. Then we've got a whole bunch of stuff for next week, plus some stuff for the upcoming Rebellion pay-per-view, which we'll talk a little bit more about after we talk about the thing that they've been promoting throughout the whole show, Nemeth versus Shelley. I don't know. It wasn't what I was expecting. I guess that's where I think I've put myself into thinking about this one and talking about this one. It certainly was a good wrestling match and whatnot, and very back and forth. And we like said, Nemeth is probably winning this thing, and because we thought and had the distinct understanding that Shelley is probably leaving. So hey, it is what it is. It's good for Nemeth, obviously, to get this win. As I sort of said, I thought he would win and he won. So it is good that he got that win because, again, it helps him build himself towards that, title picture pretty well. But I don't know. I feel like there was a lot of good stuff in this match. And certainly, like, this match was very good, but I don't know. It just never felt like it got into gear for me. Like wrestling back and forth is quite tough anyway, and that's kind of what they were trying to do here. And Shelley dominating this match, with, taking control of the arm and whatnot. I felt like the end, especially like the end, was slightly rushed to a degree, especially since at the end it seemed like they kind of had a little bit too much like celebration time for Nemeth, like posing and whatnot. I think it should just like cut off almost immediately, after that. I don't know, but like, they've got to get their stuff, the announcers stuff in, I guess, and that sort of thing. So again, it's tough, but still, they did have a lot of like seemingly dead air near the end there, as Nemeth was just like posing in the ring and whatnot. So I feel like they should have taken a little bit more time and with like building up the finish, and and whatnot. Even just a few seconds, like here or there or whatever. And it's tough because you've got to have that comeback or that come from behind or that out of nowhere moment or whatever type thing. But I just kind of felt like it really got rushed at the end, which sometimes just happens. It's a little bit annoying, especially with the whole story that they were trying to tell this whole match, which was a very, or mostly fairly slow, meandering sort of match. You know, like this certainly was the best match on the show, certainly still. But I just felt like they really needed to kick it into another gear at many points during the match. And yes, like you've got to be selling stuff and whatnot, but like this match just felt a little like they were like not they were padding for time at certain points. Like that certain things didn't really feel like this is advancing the whole thing, or you know, it felt like, hey, well, you know, that should be like some of the stuff that Nemeth did to Shelley after, you know, being beaten down. That should have been nearer to the end of the match when it was sort of almost in the middle-ish end of the match, when it should have been almost right near the end of the match. So yeah, I don't know. Like it was certainly something that I just can't put my finger on, that I think that this match kind of lacked and kind of missed on from what I thought it would be. It certainly was really good, as I sort of have said several times. But yeah, I don't know what to say about it. Like other than like it was like everything that they did in that ring was like picture perfect. You know, like everything was done. You know, like you know, at an immaculate level and whatnot. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know. This super kick sequence, though, this was pretty cool. This was like near the end of the match. And the highlight here of Nick Nemeth emerging victorious from the generational clash. I almost felt like, you know, Moose should have come down and like tore this guy a new one or something if they had that much time, you know, that they were kind of doing that stuff. But I don't know, or something. I don't know. Whatever. Anyway, Rebellion live from the Palms. Moose Nemeth, as we'll be talking about. Jordan versus Steph DeLand, Mustafa Ali versus Jake Something, Brian Myers and Eddie Edwards versus Speedball Mountain, Alexander Hammerstone versus Josh Alexander. Now, I really feel like their match needs a stipulation. You know, I don't know what stipulation, but it needs a stipulation. You can't have a stipulation or a non-stipulation match when they're having their third match or even fourth match, especially when the feud is sort of going where it's going. Maybe they'll announce it next week or something. I don't know. But then again, it's just like they should have already announced it. Probably. I don't know. Like, but at least it isn't a match announced now that they are going to have. Like we were thinking, or I was thinking, that they're probably going to have it here at Rebellion or whatever. They're at Rebellion. But you never know. Sometimes they sort of try to make these feuds last longer, so they try to span them out and whatnot. But yeah, that one I'm going to have to think a little bit more about, and we're going to probably talk about it in an upcoming video, so we'll get more on that. Next week, Jordan Grace and Steph DeLand sign a contract for the Knockouts title match at Rebellion. Crazy Steve defends the digital media title against Laredo Kid. Dollar and Rich Swann are going to take on the ABC, as we know, and a couple of other things are going on as well. Yeah, we've talked a little bit about some of that stuff with Crazy Steve and whatnot as well. So, and like, what can they do to like every contract signing ever always ends up in chaos and whatnot. So, I don't know. What should they do to make it different? what should they do to make it more interesting and whatnot. I don't know. Obviously, it feels like Steph's going to get the upper hand because she has Matt Cardona. So, I don't know. You feel like she and Matt are going to put Jordan through the table or something. So, I don't know. That feels like obvious stuff. I feel like I wish you'd be a bit more creative in some way. You know, I don't know. Make it more personal. Make this, like, again. This is what I mean by saying this angle, this feud is a this title match is a throwaway match, like, because people have no investment. They think Steph DeLand is going to lose, and she's probably going to lose. So you need to give her as much heat as possible again. So you probably need to think about, okay, how can we really make people go, oh man, maybe she will win. You know, she just put her through the table and, you know, used her own move against her or something, you know, like something like that. I don't know. It's tough to figure out what they should do, and that's their call at the end of the day, or whatever it is, or the Muscle Buster or something like that. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So that is for next week, and I can't wait for like Rebellion to be here and to be talking specifically more about it, and run through the whole thing rather than just running through like a few matches here and there or whatever. Like sometimes they won't even get all the matches together, even like the couple days beforehand, and they'll only be posting the last couple of matches like the day of or whatever, especially like the countdown show stuff. And we were talking about like Santana possibly coming into TNA. Now, extremely possible, or impossible, whatever, whichever way you want to sort of think about it. But still, I don't know, dude. Rebellion seems like the best place for him to come back if he's coming back at all. Like, so hopefully. But and again, hopefully we've got a few other new stars onto the roster, Myron Reed and the new FBI and that sort of thing. So, and I kind of wonder why the whole thing with Dollar and Swan as a tag team was like, I don't know. I guess, sure, they need more tag teams. But whatever. It is what it is. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one anyway. You can let me know your thoughts. Write them down there in the comments below if you did. And again, I hope you will join me in the next one.